She called my 200-hour handmade chess set cheap garbage on Instagram. I'm Bill Anderson, and until that moment, I'd given her everything. What Madison didn't know was that her cruel little video watched by 50,000 people would cost her family $2.8 million. Because sometimes the quiet old man in the corner isn't as powerless as he appears. And sometimes respect isn't just earned, it's lost forever in a single moment of stunning cruelty. I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I just made one phone call. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from, because this story is about standing up for dignity, no matter your age. But let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand exactly what she threw away. And more importantly, you need to understand why a man who built a $50 million empire decided that some prices are simply too high to pay. Madison Taylor Anderson became my daughter-in-law 2 years ago when she married my son, James. From day one, I tried to build a bridge. You have to understand, I'm not the typical tech mogul. After my wife Sarah died 3 years ago, I sold my company and moved to this quiet neighborhood in Bellevue. I drive a 2018 Honda Accord. I shop at Costco. I spend my days in my garage workshop turning pieces of wood into something beautiful. Madison saw an old man with sawdust under his fingernails. The signs were always there. Last Thanksgiving, she posted pictures of our dinner, but cropped me out of every single photo. Aesthetic, she explained to James later. At my birthday in October, she spent the entire evening on her phone, responding to comments on her Instagram stories. 120,000 followers meant more than one grieving father-in-law. But I kept trying, because James loved her and I loved James. For Christmas, I decided to make something special, a chess set. Not just any chess set, hand-carved from a piece of black walnut that came from the tree Sarah and I planted when James was born. The same tree that fell in last year's storm. I spent over 200 hours on those 32 pieces. Each pawn took 6 hours. The knights took 12 each. Every detail carved by hand, from the flowing manes to the flared nostrils. The king and queen were masterpieces, with intricate crowns that took me 3 attempts each to get right. My arthritis flared up from the detailed work. My back ached from hunching over the carving bench. But every cut, every sand, every stroke of the finishing oil was infused with love for my family. I researched Madison's interests, too. She'd mentioned learning chess in college, posted about wanting to elevate her game knowledge for content creation. I thought this was perfect. Something personal, something meaningful, something that connected our family's history to her future. The chessboard itself was a work of art, alternating squares of the same black walnut and maple from Sarah's jewelry box. Wood I'd been saving for something truly special. I inlaid each square by hand, creating a pattern that seemed to glow in the light. When I was finished, I had the set appraised by Henderson Woodworks downtown. Jonathan Henderson has been evaluating custom pieces for 30 years. He looked at each piece through his jeweler's loupe for nearly an hour. "Bill," he said, shaking his head, "this isn't just craftsmanship. This is art. I'd value this at $5,200 minimum. The hours alone at professional rates would be $8,000. But to me, it was priceless. It represented everything I wanted to share with Madison: patience, tradition, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful with your own hands. It was my way of saying, you're family now. I wrapped it in Sarah's vintage Christmas paper, the kind with the gold ribbons she always saved and reused. I wrote a card explaining the wood's history, the hours invested, the love embedded in every grain. Madison opened it Christmas morning in front of 15 family members, my brother Tom and his wife, James's cousins, Sarah's sister and her children. Everyone watched as she lifted the pieces one by one. For a moment, I thought I saw recognition in her eyes, appreciation for the work, understanding of the gift's true meaning. I was wrong. "Oh," she said, her voice flat. "It's homemade." She set the king down harder than necessary. "I mean, it's nice, Bill. Very rustic." The room went quiet. Tom stopped mid-conversation. Even the kids sensed something was off, but Madison wasn't finished. She was already reaching for her phone. What happened next changed everything between us. Madison held up her phone, angling it to capture the chess set in the worst possible light. The morning sun streaming through the window created harsh shadows that made my careful work look rough, unfinished. Getting some very interesting gifts this Christmas, she said to her phone, that fake bright influencer voice she used for her stories. Some people still think homemade equals heartfelt, I guess. She flipped the camera to show her face, rolling her eyes dramatically. I mean, I appreciate the effort, but when you're trying to build a lifestyle brand, you can't exactly showcase garage sale aesthetic, you know? I felt something cold settle in my chest, not just hurt something deeper, a recognition that I'd fundamentally misunderstood who Madison was. James looked mortified. Mads, come on. What? She snapped, still recording. I'm just being honest. I can't use this for content. My followers expect a certain level of sophistication. She posted it immediately. I watched the little circle appear at the top of her Instagram story, complete with the tag Christmas Reality and a laughing crying emoji. Within minutes, the views started climbing. 500, 1,200, 5,847. Madison's followers were eating it up, commenting with fire emojis and so real messages. That's when I understood the stakes of what was really happening here. This wasn't just about a chess set. This was about respect. This was about whether love and effort had any value in a world obsessed with appearance and price tags. This was about whether a man's dignity could be casually destroyed for content creation. But there was something else Madison didn't know, something that made her casual cruelty not just hurtful, but catastrophically stupid. You see, I hadn't just been supporting James emotionally since Sarah's death. I'd been supporting him financially too, and Madison, and their entire lifestyle. The condo they lived in downtown, I co-signed the lease and paid the $5,000 security deposit. The BMW she drove, I made the down payment. Her influencer lifestyle, the designer clothes, the professional photography, the networking events, I'd quietly funded all of it through what I called James's allowance. $2,000 a month, direct deposit, no questions asked. More than that, though, was the trust fund. When James turned 30 last year, I'd established an education and family trust worth $2.8 million. Madison was listed as a primary beneficiary. The money was designated for their future children's education, a house down payment, and long-term family security. The document sat in Patricia Wilson's office at Wilson & Associates, waiting for James's 32nd birthday, just 14 months away. At that point, Madison would have access to $200,000 immediately for family enhancement purposes. The rest would become available for major life events, buying a home, starting a business, children's college expenses. I'd spent months with Patricia structuring it perfectly, tax-advantaged, protected from creditors, designed to give them freedom without encouraging dependency. Madison had no idea it existed. James knew about the trust in general terms. Dad's taking care of our future. But I'd kept the specific amounts private. I wanted it to be a surprise, a gift that would secure their family for generations. Now, watching her mock my gift to 50,000 strangers, I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. I'd assumed Madison shared our family values. I'd assumed she understood that real wealth isn't about what you display, but what you build. I'd assumed she'd eventually mature into the kind of woman who could appreciate both a hand-carved chess set and the man who made it with arthritic hands and a grieving heart. I was wrong on all counts. The Instagram story hit 10,000 views by noon. The comments were brutal. Old people gifts are so awkward. Imagine thinking anyone wants your DIY projects. Someone tell Grandpa it's 2024. Each comment felt like a slap. Not just to me, but to Sarah's memory, to the values we'd tried to instill in James, to the idea that effort and love should mean something in this world. But what really shattered something inside me was realizing that Madison had calculated this moment. She'd waited until she had an audience family watching in person, followers watching online. She'd turned my vulnerability into her content, my love into her entertainment. That's when I knew. Some relationships can't be repaired. Some disrespect runs too deep. Some people mistake your kindness for weakness until you show them exactly how wrong they are. Madison wanted to see what cheap looked like. I was about to show her. By Christmas evening, Madison's story had gone viral in her circle. I know because James showed me, his face red with embarrassment and anger. Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's gotten into her. The original story had 23,400 views, but worse, her followers had taken screenshots and shared them to other platforms. Someone had even created a TikTok using her audio, showing gifts your in-laws think are thoughtful but actually suck. It had 89,000 views and counting. Look at the comments, James said, scrolling through his wife's Instagram. His voice was tight with controlled fury. Look what they're saying about you. Boomer energy. Someone's grandfather has too much time. When family members don't understand your brand. This is why I limit time with relatives during holidays. I read them all. Every single cruel, dismissive word. James, I said quietly, it's fine. It's not fine, Dad. This is humiliating. For you, for our family. I'm going to talk to her. But when James confronted Madison that night, she doubled down. I wasn't supposed to hear their argument. I was in my garage workshop trying to lose myself in sanding a new project. But their voices carried from the driveway when they got home from her friend's Christmas party. You're overreacting, Madison said, her voice sharp with irritation. It's social media, James. This is my job. My followers expect authenticity. Your job? Your job is humiliating my father? Your father gave me a wooden chess set, James. Wooden. I have an image to maintain. My brand partnerships depend on consistent aesthetic standards. Brand partnerships? Madison, he spent months on that gift. Which is sweet but irrelevant. I can't post content that damages my engagement rates. Sarah Chen from Modern Lifestyle has 300,000 followers now. You think she got there by posting pictures of craft projects from relatives? I stopped sanding. The cold in my chest was spreading. This isn't about followers, Madison. This is about respect. Respect? Her laugh was bitter. James, your dad is a nice old man who plays with wood in his garage. That's lovely for him. But I'm building something here. Real influence. Real money. Last month alone, I made $8,000 from sponsored posts. $8,000? I almost laughed. That was less than I'd spent on materials for my workshop upgrade last quarter. Madison, you're talking about my father. I'm talking about reality, James. Your father's stuck in some fantasy where handmade gifts matter more than actual value. This isn't 1985. People want luxury. They want aspiration. They want to see success, not hobby projects. Hobby projects? Madison, look, I get it. You love your dad. But enabling his delusions doesn't help anyone. Maybe this will motivate him to find more contemporary interests. That's when something shifted inside me. Not anger, something colder, more final. Contemporary interests, delusions, hobby projects, I'd heard enough. The next morning I did something I hadn't done in months. I put on my good suit, the Navy Armani I'd worn to business meetings back when I had a company to run. I polished my shoes. I combed my hair the way Sarah used to like it. Then I made a phone call. Patricia? It's Bill Anderson. I need to see you today about the family trust. Something's changed. But first, I had one stop to make. I drove to Madison and James's condo in my Honda Accord. The same car Madison had once asked James if I needed help, affording something more suitable for a man your father's age. Madison was in the lobby when I arrived, dressed in workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget. She was on her phone, of course, recording herself. Morning coffee run before Pilates, she was saying to her camera. Sometimes you have to prioritize self-care, even during family drama season. Family drama season, that's what she called Christmas. She saw me approaching and quickly ended the recording. Oh, hi Bill. Madison. We stood there for a moment, studying each other. Her in her $200 Lululemon outfit, me in my decade-old suit. She probably saw exactly what she expected, a sad old man trying to dress up his irrelevance. James isn't here, she said, shifting her weight. He went to the gym. I know. I came to see you. Something flickered in her eyes. Annoyance? Concern? If this is about yesterday, Bill, I really don't think... It's not about yesterday, I said quietly. It's about respect. Her phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram, probably someone engaging with her latest story. She glanced at it instinctively. Madison, when you look at me, what do you see? The question seemed to confuse her. She blinked, clearly not expecting this conversation. I What do you mean? It's a simple question. When you look at me, what do you see? She fidgeted with her phone case. Bill, this is kind of weird. An old man with hobbies? Someone stuck in 1985? A delusional grandfather who doesn't understand your brand? Now she looked uncomfortable. I never said delusional. No, you said that to James last night, in the driveway. Her face went pale. She hadn't realized I could hear. Bill, look, I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I said, my voice calm, steady. You meant every word. And that's fine, Madison. That's your choice. I turned to leave, then looked back. But choices have consequences. You might want to remember that. I walked away, leaving her standing there with her phone and her assumptions and her $8,000 in monthly influencer income. She had no idea what was coming. The next few days I kept busy. Madison probably thought I was sulking. James certainly seemed worried about me, calling twice to check in, offering to come over, suggesting we talk through what happened. But I wasn't sulking. I was thinking and planning and making some very important phone calls. The first call was to Patricia Wilson, my attorney. We'd worked together for 15 years, through the company growth, the acquisition, Sarah's estate planning, and the family trust establishment. Patricia knew exactly how my mind worked when it came to protecting what mattered. Bill, I have to ask, are you sure about this timing? Patricia's voice carried that careful tone lawyers use when they think their clients might be making emotional decisions. It's only been 3 days since Christmas. Maybe give it some time. I was sitting in my workshop, running my hand along the smooth surface of a maple cutting board I'd been working on. The wood was perfect. No knots, no flaws, every grain line flowing in harmony. It had taken me weeks to select the right piece from the lumber yard. Patricia, let me ask you something. If you spent weeks selecting the perfect piece of wood, invested hundreds of hours shaping it, and someone called it garage sale junk on social media, would time change the fundamental disrespect of that act? She was quiet for a moment. No, I suppose it wouldn't. Exactly. This isn't about anger, Patricia. This is about judgment. I misjudged Madison's character, and that misjudgment put family assets at risk. Assets that are legally protected. From creditors and tax liability, yes, but not from being inherited by someone who fundamentally doesn't understand their value or purpose. I could hear her typing on her computer, probably pulling up the trust documents. The discretionary clause does give you complete control over distributions and beneficiaries, she admitted. But Bill, we structured this trust specifically for James and Madison's benefit. Their future children's education can be secured through other vehicles that don't require Madison's involvement. More typing. A long pause. What exactly are you proposing? I want Madison removed as a beneficiary. Completely. I want James to remain, but with new conditions around spousal involvement. And I want the education provisions restructured to protect against potential divorce scenarios. Bill, and I want it done this week. Another pause. That's technically possible, but are you certain this isn't a reaction you'll regret? I set down the cutting board and picked up one of the chess pieces Madison had dismissed so casually. The black walnut king, with its intricate crown that had taken me 3 attempts to carve correctly. In the workshop lighting, it was clearly a masterpiece. Any woodworker would see that immediately. Patricia, I built TechCore systems from nothing. 3 employees in a rented office space in 2006 to 215 employees across 4 states when Amazon acquired us in 2019. You know what that taught me? What's that? Character assessment is the most important skill you can develop. I got very good at reading people, their motivations, their values, their capacity for growth and loyalty. I turned the chess piece in the light, admiring Sarah's craftsmanship in selecting the wood originally. I failed with Madison. Completely. I saw what I wanted to see instead of what was actually there. People can change, Bill. Some can. Madison isn't one of them. She's 28 years old, Patricia. Her values are set. Her priorities are clear. She's shown me exactly who she is, and I finally believe her. That evening, I had another conversation, this one with Henderson Woodworks. Jonathan, it's Bill Anderson. I have a question about that chess set you appraised. The walnut set? Beautiful work, Bill. Still thinking about entering it in the state fair competition? Actually, I'm wondering about documentation. Professional authentication of the craftsmanship quality. I can certainly provide that. Why the sudden interest in formal documentation? I explained about Madison's social media post, her comments about garage sale aesthetic. Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. Bill, I've been evaluating woodwork for 30 years. That chess set represents master-level craftsmanship. The joinery alone, most professionals couldn't achieve that level of precision. Could you put that assessment in writing? With photographs? Absolutely. In fact, I'd like to submit it to Woodworking Today magazine if you're interested. They're always looking for exceptional examples of traditional hand-carving techniques. Interesting, very interesting. My third call was to my banker at Cascadia Investment Group. Bill, good to hear from you. How can I help? I need current statements for all accounts, and I'd like to schedule a meeting about restructuring some of the monthly transfers. The family support transfers? Among others, yes. No problem. How's Friday morning? Perfect. That night, James called. Dad, Madison feels terrible about the Instagram thing. She wants to apologize. That's not necessary, James. She took the story down, and she's thinking about posting something positive about the chess set, maybe showing off the craftsmanship. James, yeah? Tell Madison I said thank you, but that won't be necessary either. Dad, are you okay? You sound different. I looked around my workshop at the professional grade tools, the custom workbenches, the lumber storage system that had cost more than most people's cars. I'm fine, son. Just thinking clearly for the first time in a while. New Year's Eve changed everything. Madison decided to host a party at their condo. Intimate gathering, she called it on her Instagram stories. Ring in 2025 with my closest people. James invited me, of course. Come on, Dad. It'll be fun. Madison's really excited to have family there. I almost declined, but something told me I needed to see this. I needed to understand exactly who Madison was when she felt completely in control of her environment. The party was everything I expected. 20-something influencers and content creators, all perfectly dressed, all constantly photographing each other. The kind of people who said, "That's so aesthetic," unironically, and measured every moment by its potential viral value. Madison was in her element. Designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly utility bill, professional makeup, every angle calculated for maximum impact. She moved through the party like a director managing a film set, positioning people for photos, adjusting lighting, ensuring every detail supported her brand. I arrived at 8:30 wearing a simple button-down shirt and khakis. Madison's face when she saw me was instructive. Bill, you came. The enthusiasm was performative, clearly for the benefit of her guests. Everyone, this is James's dad. A few polite nods. Most people went back to their conversations immediately. I was obviously not part of the target demographic for this gathering. James introduced me around. Dad's retired tech CEO, he told people. Sold his company a few years ago. Oh, cool, was the standard response, delivered with the kind of polite disinterest reserved for irrelevant relatives. I found a quiet corner and watched Madison work. She was good at what she did, I had to admit. Every interaction was designed to create content opportunities. She posed with friends, captured candid moments, ensured her apartment looked perfect in every shot. Around 10 o'clock, the conversation shifted to gifts and holiday experiences. Madison got the most ridiculous gift from James's family, said a blonde woman with an obvious Instagram filter tan. Show them, Mads. My chest tightened. Oh my God, yes, Madison laughed, pulling out her phone. You guys will die. She pulled up her Christmas story, the one that had humiliated me in front of 50,000 people. So James's dad made me this chess set, she said, holding up the phone so everyone could see. Like carved it himself. By hand. A few people laughed immediately. I mean, I appreciate the effort, Madison continued, her voice dripping with condescension. But it's 2024. Who has time for that level of rustic authenticity? That's so random, said a guy with a man bun and expensive glasses. Did he think you were going to post it? Right? That's what I told James. I can't exactly showcase garage sale aesthetic to my followers. My engagement would tank. More laughter. I watched James's face across the room. He looked mortified, but he wasn't stopping her. The funniest part, Madison continued, is that he was so proud of it. Genuinely thought it was this amazing gift. It was almost sad. Almost sad. Old people just don't understand modern standards, said another girl, scrolling through her own phone. My grandmother still thinks I should be excited about handmade scarves. Exactly, Madison said. Like, I love that they care, but they're so out of touch with reality. This chess set probably took him forever to make, and it's worth maybe $50 at a garage sale. $50. I'd been standing 20 feet away, listening to every word. Madison knew I was there. She'd seen me when I walked in, had greeted me specifically. This wasn't accidental cruelty, this was intentional humiliation performed for an audience. That's when I realized something important. Madison wasn't just disrespectful, she was cruel. There's a difference between ignorance and calculated cruelty, and Madison had just shown me exactly where she fell in that spectrum. I walked over to the group. Madison. The conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look at me. Oh, Bill. Madison's voice was bright, fake. We were just talking about holiday gifts. I heard. The silence stretched. Her friends looked uncomfortable, sensing tension they didn't understand. Madison, could I speak with you privately for a moment? Actually, we're kind of in the middle of... It'll just take a minute. James appeared at my elbow. Dad, is everything okay? I looked at Madison, who was still holding her phone, still surrounded by her audience of enablers. Madison, I want to ask you something in front of your friends, since they seem interested in the story. Her face went pale. Bill, I don't think... That chess set you've been discussing. The one worth maybe $50 at a garage sale. Do you know how much time I spent on it? You said... A lot of time. 206 hours. I logged every session. I kept my voice calm, conversational. Do you know what kind of wood it's made from? Wood is... wood? A few people laughed nervously. Black walnut from a tree my late wife and I planted when James was born. The tree fell in a storm last year. I had the wood properly dried and aged for 18 months. The laughter stopped. Do you know what the professional appraisal value was? Madison's friends were looking back and forth between us, like they were watching a tennis match. Bill, this really isn't... $5,200. Dead silence. Henderson Woodworks downtown. Jonathan Henderson. 30 years of professional experience. Master-level craftsmanship, he called it. Suitable for museum exhibition. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I have the written appraisal right here, with photographs. Detailed analysis of the joinery, the carving technique, the wood selection, and preparation. Madison stared at me. Her friends stared at her. But you know what the real value is, Madison? It's the value of respect. It's the value of appreciating when someone loves you enough to invest 200 hours of their life creating something beautiful just for you. I put my phone away. That value can't be appraised, Madison, and once it's lost, it can't be recovered. I turned to leave, then looked back. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope 2025 teaches you all something about the difference between price and worth. I walked out, leaving Madison standing there in her designer dress, surrounded by her perfectly curated life, finally understanding that she'd made a very expensive mistake. But she still had no idea how expensive. James followed me to the elevator. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was going to... James, stop apologizing for your wife. But she was completely out of line. Yes, she was? And now we all know exactly who she is. The elevator arrived. I stepped inside. Dad, what are you going to do? I looked at my son, this good man I'd raised, who was married to a woman who found cruelty entertaining. I'm going to make sure respect starts mattering again in this family. The doors closed before he could respond. The meeting with Patricia Wilson was scheduled for January 2nd at 10 a.m. I arrived 15 minutes early, the way I'd been trained to do in business. Patricia's office hadn't changed much since Sarah and I had first visited to set up our estate planning. Same mahogany furniture, same wall of law books, same sense of quiet authority that came with handling serious money for serious people. Bill, good to see you, Patricia said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. I have to say, I've been thinking about our phone conversation. And I pulled the trust documents yesterday, reviewed the discretionary clauses, the beneficiary designations, the whole structure. She opened a thick file folder. Technically, everything you want to do is perfectly legal. You have complete authority over distributions and beneficiary status. Good. But I want to make sure you understand the implications. Once we remove Madison as a beneficiary, that decision's permanent. The trust structure doesn't allow for easy reinstatement. I leaned back in my chair. Patricia, let me tell you what happened at Madison's New Year's Eve party. I described the entire scene, Madison's performance, her friends' laughter, the casual cruelty of reducing my work to garage sale aesthetic in front of an audience. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Bill, that's deliberately hurtful behavior. It's more than that, Patricia. It's a fundamental incompatibility of values. Madison doesn't just disrespect me, she finds my values ridiculous. Traditional craftsmanship, family relationships, the idea that effort has inherent worth regardless of social media approval. Still, removing her from a $2.8 million trust is exactly the right response to someone who thinks respect is optional. Patricia pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Walk me through what you want the new structure to look like. That's when James walked in. Patricia's assistant had let him up. He was on the approved family list for trust discussions, but I could see from his face that he wasn't expected. Dad? What are you doing here? I glanced at Patricia, who nodded slightly. James, sit down. We need to talk. James looked between us, clearly sensing something serious. Is everything okay? Is this about the trust fund? It's about respect, I said, and consequences. I spent the next 20 minutes explaining everything. The trust structure he'd never fully understood. Madison's status as a beneficiary. The amounts involved. What I'd witnessed over the past week. James's face went through a series of expressions. Surprise, understanding, and finally something that looked like relief. Dad, I had no idea the trust was that substantial. That was intentional. I wanted it to be a surprise. And Madison? Madison's been listed as a beneficiary this whole time? Primary beneficiary for education and family enhancement distributions. She would have had access to $200,000 on your 32nd birthday. The rest would have been available for major life events. James was quiet for a long moment. Would have been? James, your wife spent New Year's Eve entertaining her friends by mocking a gift I invested over 200 hours creating. She called it worth $50 at a garage sale. She said it was almost sad that I was proud of it. Dad, she did this knowing I could hear every word. This wasn't private frustration or a moment of poor judgment. This was calculated cruelty performed for social media content. Patricia cleared her throat. James, I need to ask, did you know about Madison's Instagram story? The one from Christmas? James's face reddened. I saw it. I told her to take it down. But you didn't ask her to post an apology or correction? No. She said it would hurt her engagement metrics. I felt something settle in my chest. Even James Good, loving James, had prioritized Madison's metrics over his father's dignity. Here's what's going to happen, I said, looking at both of them. Patricia is restructuring the trust. Madison will be removed as a beneficiary entirely. The education provisions will be restructured to protect against potential divorce scenarios. Dad, that seems... James, let me finish. You'll remain as the primary beneficiary, but with new conditions. Any spouse you have will need to demonstrate consistent, respectful behavior toward family members. There will be a probationary period for new relationships. And there will be a clause about public humiliation on social media platforms. James stared at me. You're writing Madison out of millions of dollars because of an Instagram story. I'm protecting family assets from someone who has demonstrated she doesn't share our values and doesn't respect the source of those assets. But Dad, she's my wife. James, answer me honestly. Do you respect Madison's behavior over the past week? He was quiet for a long time. No, he said finally. No, I don't. Do you think someone who finds family cruelty entertaining should have access to family wealth? Another pause. When you put it that way. James, I love you. I want your life to be secure and happy, but I won't subsidize disrespect. I won't fund someone's lifestyle while they publicly mock the values that created the wealth in the first place. Patricia had been taking notes throughout this conversation. Bill, there's one more thing we should discuss. The monthly support payments. What monthly payments? James asked. I'd hoped to avoid this part, but there was no way around it now. James, I've been providing supplemental financial support since your mother died. $2,000 a month, direct deposit, plus one-time payments for your security deposit, Madison's car down payment, various other expenses. James looked stunned. Dad, I had no idea. The payments stop as of today. The payments stop? James, you're 31 years old. You have a good job in software development. Madison has her influencer income. You don't need my subsidies to maintain your lifestyle. But the condo has a lease you both signed. You're legally responsible for the monthly rent. I'd suggest reviewing your budget very carefully. Patricia was still writing. Bill, should I draft termination letters for the automatic transfers? Yes, effective immediately. James sat there, processing the full scope of what was happening. Dad, this feels like you're punishing me for Madison's behavior. James, I'm not punishing anyone. I'm making rational decisions about resource allocation based on demonstrated values and behavior patterns. I stood up, signaling that the conversation was ending. Patricia, how long until the new documents are ready? I can have them prepared by end of business Friday. Perfect. I looked at James, who still seemed to be in shock. Son, I love you. This doesn't change that. But enabling disrespect isn't love. It's weakness. And I'm done being weak. I walked toward the door, then turned back. James, you might want to have a very serious conversation with your wife about values and consequences, because what happened this week is going to cost your family nearly $3 million. Dad, wait. And James? The Honda Accord I drive? I bought it with cash. The garage sale chess set? It's worth more than Madison's monthly influencer income. Maybe it's time you both learned the difference between substance and appearance. I left them sitting there with Patricia and $2.8 million worth of consequences. Friday afternoon, Patricia called. The documents are ready, Bill. New trust structure, terminated beneficiary status for Madison, revised conditions for James. Are you sure you want to proceed? I was in my workshop putting the finishing touches on a cherrywood jewelry box, a commission piece that would sell for $1,200. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'm sure, Patricia. There's one more thing we should discuss. Communication. Do you want me to notify Madison directly about the change in her beneficiary status? I thought about that. Madison had spent a week publicly humiliating me, turning my love into contempt for her followers. She deserved to understand the consequences of her choices. No, Patricia. I'll handle that conversation personally. Bill, don't worry. It'll be completely civil. I signed the documents that afternoon. Patricia had them notarized, filed, and legally recorded by 5 p.m. Madison Anderson was officially no longer connected to any Anderson family assets, but Madison didn't know that yet. Saturday morning, I drove to their condo. James's BMW was gone, probably at the gym, his usual Saturday routine, but Madison's white Mercedes was in her assigned space, the one I'd helped pay for. I knocked on their door at exactly 10 a.m. Madison answered wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun. Without makeup and professional lighting, she looked younger, more vulnerable. Bill? What are you doing here? I wanted to talk with you, Madison. About respect. She sighed, clearly not interested in this conversation. Bill, look, I'm sorry about the party thing. My friends were asking questions, and I got carried away. May I come in? She stepped aside reluctantly. Their condo was exactly what I'd expected. Perfectly curated for Instagram, every surface arranged for optimal photography. Expensive furniture, designer accessories, everything positioned to communicate success and sophistication. All of it funded, directly or indirectly, by me. Madison, I want to show you something. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The main screen showed account balances, investment summaries, the financial overview of someone who'd built and sold a major technology company. Her eyes widened slightly. This is my net worth, Madison. $47.3 million as of yesterday's close. She stared at the screen. The company I sold? TechCore Systems. Amazon acquired us for $52 million in 2019. I kept about $40 million after taxes, legal fees, and employee bonuses. I switched to another screen. This is my monthly passive income. Investment returns, real estate, consulting retainers, about $85,000 per month. Madison was very quiet now. The Honda Accord I drive? I paid cash. $32,000. I drive it because I like reliable, efficient transportation, not because I can't afford something else. I showed her another screen. This is the workshop equipment in my garage. Professional grade tools, custom workbenches, climate-controlled lumber storage. About $75,000 in equipment. I have it because woodworking is my passion, not because I'm a hobbyist killing time. Her face had gone pale. The chess set you called garage sale junk? Henderson Woodworks appraised it at $5,200. Woodworking Today magazine wants to feature it in their master craftsmanship section. I put my phone away. Madison, you spent 2 weeks calling me a delusional old man with hobby projects. You turned my Christmas gift into social media content. You entertained your friends by mocking something I created with love and skill. Bill, let me finish. Yesterday I met with my attorney. I restructured the family trust that was established for you and James. Her expression shifted to confusion. Family trust? The $2.8 million trust fund that listed you as a primary beneficiary. The one that would have given you access to $200,000 on James's 32nd birthday, with the remainder available for house purchases, business investments, and your future children's education. The color drained completely from her face. $2.8 million? That's correct. Was correct. I was a beneficiary? You were, until yesterday. Madison stared at me, clearly struggling to process what she was hearing. Bill, I don't understand. Madison, you called my gift worth $50 at a garage sale. You said it was almost sad that I was proud of it. You told your friends that old people don't understand modern standards. But I didn't know you didn't know that I was wealthy. You didn't know that I was financially supporting your lifestyle. You didn't know that your future was secured by a trust fund I'd established. I moved toward the door. But you did know that I was James's father. You did know that I'd invested months creating something special for you. You did know that mocking me publicly would hurt me. Bill, please. Respect isn't conditional on wealth, Madison. Kindness isn't something you only show to people who can benefit you. Family loyalty isn't determined by someone's social media value. I opened the door. The monthly support payments I've been making to James? They stopped yesterday, too. $2,000 per month plus various one-time payments for your security deposits, car payments, lifestyle expenses. Madison was crying now, but I felt no satisfaction in her tears. Bill, if I had known, that's exactly the problem, Madison. You treated me with disrespect because you thought I couldn't afford to matter. You were wrong about my wealth, but you were right about one thing. What? Respect does have a price, and you just learned exactly what it costs. I walked away, leaving Madison to calculate the full cost of her cruelty. $2.8 million, plus interest, plus the knowledge that she'd destroyed her own family's future for the entertainment value of 50,000 Instagram followers. Some lessons are expensive. This one was worth every penny. The reality hit Madison within 48 hours. James called me Sunday evening, his voice tight with panic. Dad, we need to talk. Madison told me about your conversation yesterday. I figured she would. Dad, she's not doing well. She hasn't eaten since yesterday. She's been crying nonstop. I'm sorry to hear that, James. Are you? Are you really sorry? I was in my kitchen making dinner for something I'd been doing for 3 years since Sarah died. The simple routine of cooking reminded me that life continued, even after major changes. James, I'm sorry that Madison is in pain. I'm not sorry that her actions have consequences. Dad, $3 million in consequences? James, Madison spent 2 weeks publicly mocking me to build her social media engagement. She turned family cruelty into content creation. She calculated every humiliation for maximum viral impact. There was a long pause. She wants to apologize. I'm sure she does. Dad, please. Can't you just reconsider? Maybe reduce her share instead of eliminating it completely. I finished plating my dinner-baked salmon, roasted vegetables, a simple salad, food that nourished without unnecessary complexity. James, let me ask you something. If a business partner had publicly mocked your company, your work, your values, would you continue doing business with them after they apologized? That's different. Is it? Madison treated our family relationship like a business transaction. She calculated her behavior based on perceived value and social media metrics. I'm simply responding in kind. But she's family now, Dad. No, James. She's someone who married into our family and then spent 2 weeks demonstrating that she doesn't share our values. By Monday, the financial reality was setting in for both of them. James called again Tuesday morning. Dad, our rent is due Friday. Without the monthly support payments, we can't make the full amount. Have you considered adjusting your lifestyle to match your actual income? Dad, be serious. I am being serious, James. You make $85,000 a year in software development. Madison claims she makes $8,000 a month from Instagram sponsorships. That's $181,000 in combined annual income. But the condo costs $4,000 a month. Then perhaps you should have considered that before signing the lease. Dad, you co-signed. You encouraged us to get this place. That was true. I had encouraged them back when I thought Madison was someone who appreciated family support instead of someone who monetized family cruelty. James, I co-signed based on my assessment of Madison's character. That assessment has changed. So you're just going to let us get evicted? I'm going to let you make adult decisions about housing you can actually afford. The conversation ended badly. James hung up on me, something he hadn't done since he was 16, but the calls kept coming. Wednesday, Madison's car payment was due. The BMW lease I'd subsidized was $847 per month. Thursday, her professional photography session was scheduled the monthly shoot that maintained her Instagram aesthetic. Cost $1,200. Friday, rent day. They scrambled to cover the shortfall by borrowing from James's 401k, triggering tax penalties and early withdrawal fees. By the following Monday, Madison's Instagram presence was already shifting. I didn't follow her account, but James mentioned the changes during our weekly check-in call. She's had to cancel 3 brand partnership deals because she can't afford the lifestyle they require for authentic promotion, such as designer clothing brands, luxury travel companies, high-end restaurant partnerships. They all require her to actually use and display the products in realistic settings, and she can't afford those settings anymore. Dad, she's lost 12,000 followers in the past week. Her engagement rates are dropping because she can't maintain the content quality her audience expects. The influencer economy, I was learning, was more fragile than I'd realized. Madison's success had been built on the appearance of effortless luxury. Without the financial foundation I'd been quietly providing, that appearance was impossible to maintain. James, has Madison considered finding a different type of work? She's been an influencer for 3 years, Dad. She doesn't have other professional experience. Then perhaps it's time for her to develop some. By February, they'd moved to a smaller apartment across town. 1 bedroom, $2,200 per month. No designated parking. Madison's Mercedes was repossessed when she couldn't make the payments. James updated me on their situation during our monthly dinner, a tradition I'd maintained despite everything. She's working at a marketing company now. Entry-level social media coordinator, $28,000 a year. That's honest work. Dad, she went from making nearly $100,000 a year to making $28,000 because of an Instagram story. James, she went from receiving family subsidies she never earned to working for money she actually makes. That's not punishment, that's reality. She's learned her lesson, Dad. Has she? Or has she simply learned that disrespecting wealthy people has expensive consequences? James didn't have an answer for that, but I knew which one was true. 6 months later, Madison finally asked to see me. It was James who arranged the meeting over dinner at our usual restaurant. Dad, Madison has something she wants to say to you. Something important. I agreed to meet them, but I chose the location. My workshop. If Madison wanted to apologize for calling my craftsmanship garage sale junk, she could do it surrounded by the evidence of what I actually created. They arrived on a Saturday morning in James's Honda Civic, his new car, after the BMW lease ended. Madison looked different. Simpler clothes, less makeup, an overall appearance of someone who'd learned to live within actual means. Bill, thank you for agreeing to see me, she said quietly. I gestured around the workshop. This is where I made your chess set, Madison. 206 hours of work at this bench. She looked around, really looked, for the first time. The professional equipment, the organized tool storage, the lumber racks filled with exotic woods that cost more per board foot than most people spend on groceries. Bill, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you that I understand now. Understand what? I understand that you weren't just a retired man with hobbies. I understand that this, she gestured around the workshop, represents skill and passion and investment that I completely failed to recognize. She picked up the chess piece I'd left on the workbench. the black walnut king that had started all of this. I understand that when I called this garage sale junk, I wasn't just insulting a gift. I was insulting everything you valued, everything you'd worked for, everything that made you who you are. I watched her examine the piece, seeing details she'd missed the first time. Madison, do you understand why I restructured the trust? Because I was cruel to you. No, because you demonstrated that you don't share the values that created the wealth you expected to inherit. She was quiet for a long moment. Bill, I've spent 6 months thinking about this. About respect, about family, about what matters. I've learned things about myself that I didn't want to learn. Such as that I became someone I don't like. That I prioritized image over substance. That I turned cruelty into entertainment because it got me attention. She set down the chess piece carefully. I can't undo what I did. I can't take back the Instagram story or the party comments or the months of casual disrespect. But I can tell you that I understand now why those things mattered. And I can promise you that I'll never treat family that way again, not because of money, but because it's wrong. I looked at James, who'd been watching this conversation carefully. James, what do you think? I think Madison means what she's saying, Dad. I think we've both learned something important about values and consequences. I nodded slowly. The trust structure isn't changing, Madison. You're not being reinstated as a beneficiary. Her face fell slightly, but she nodded. I understand. But James, I'm willing to restore the monthly family support, with new conditions. What conditions? Respect isn't negotiable. Family loyalty isn't optional, and private family matters stay private. No social media content that involves other family members without explicit consent. Agreed. I looked around my workshop one more time, at the tools and wood and evidence of meaningful work. Respect is earned through actions, not apologies. Show me consistency over time, and we'll talk about rebuilding trust. Madison nodded. Thank you for giving me that chance. As they left, I returned to my current project. A dining room table commissioned by a young couple expecting their first child. Solid maple, hand-jointed, built to last generations. Some things, I reflected, are worth the time and effort to create properly, including family relationships. If you've been watching this story, I'd love to know what you think. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members? How do you balance love with accountability? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and subscribe if this story resonated with you, because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable disrespect, even when it costs millions of dollars to make your point.